Welcome to this flight of the Retail Pilot. I'm Ken Pilot, former CEO and current brand advisor, investor, and board member. I'm thrilled to share with you some of the insights from retail's leaders and legends, as well as my perspective on retail today. This podcast is sponsored by the following. PredictSpring is a global point-of-sale platform live in 22 countries. The platform includes mobile POS, endless aisle, fulfillment, inventory management, and clienteling, creating a true omni experience for customers and associates. PredictSpring powers Suit Supply, Converse, Lovesac, Decium, Janie and Jack, and Bouclair. On today's flight of the Retail Pilot, I'm excited to have Shai Eisenman, founder and CEO of Bubble Skincare, the first modern, affordable, science-backed skincare line formulated to clean, balance, and hydrate young skin, all for under $20. Today, the Bubble line consists of 20 plus products that work together to create a complete routine from face cleansers to face masks. Bubble products are available on hellobubble.com and in over 20,000 retail locations across the US, UK, Australia, including Boots, Beauty Bay, CVS, Walmart, and Ulta stores. Prior to starting Bubble in 2018, Eisenman started her BA at the age of 15 and began her career in business at 16 years old. She lives in New York with her partner and 2 children. Shai, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
You're excited to be here. My daughter's excited that you're here. Paige's kids are excited that you're here. So I'm sure that means there's a huge following out there that really wants to hear about how you built this business and the community with whom you work. Tell us a little bit more about how you got into the business. You had a very interesting childhood. You grew up quickly. Give us some context.
So I started things fairly young. I started my BA when I was 15. I finished it by the time I was 18. And I started working full time pretty much when I was, 16, 17 years old while I was doing my BA. So had a bit of a different and interesting childhood. I stopped being a child very young. And I started working on Bubble when I was about 26, 27 years old, when it was actually my second entrepreneurship venture. And I fell in love with the beauty category because I felt like it's the only category in the world that combines being extremely clinical and being super emotionally driven. So I don't think you can find any other category that truly has a clinical impact on your skin, on your anything in your body or your health. But at the same time, there's such an emotional connection and such an excitement around it. Sorry, go ahead.
You identified the space, and then you didn't jump right into creating product and brand. You built a team of advisors, a community around you that helped you understand more about what the needs were in the space you were going after. Share a bit more about that with us.
So when I started, I had this very clear perception over what consumers are looking for, what they want, and what they're excited about. And I decided to really look into that and go and truly verify that what I thought was right. So I conducted the first focus group, and it was me in, a suburb somewhere with 9 other teen girls then. I think they were 15, 16 years old. And I asked them, what do they think of skincare and what do they think of products and the industry? And I realized that every perception I had was completely wrong. And that's when I decided that I have to make this something that we really involve our community in and they're truly a part of. So I found myself meeting over 200 Gen Zers then, and then created a community of 4,600 people before we launched who were a part of every decision we made. So they named the brand. They helped us looking at packaging, mood boards, branding, everything related to testing the products before we launched. And until this very day, over 6 years later, they're a part of everything we do. And they are over 50,000 brand ambassadors and community members.
What's your means of communication with them? How do you share your questions, your visuals? How do you do that?
So we have about 4 different platforms that we use. That one of them is a chat platform that is only Bubble dedicated. And that's where essentially we ask for their thoughts. We also have a platform where we can send them questionnaires or we can ask them to do certain things. And they are essentially our Bubble army. And they're a part of every decision we make. They're a part of thinking through new products, new innovation, thinking through product names. We have products that have been fully named by our community, and they're part of truly every decision in the company, which makes my job very easy.
And in return for helping you build your brand and I guess the notoriety they get from being an advisor, is there any form of remuneration, or do they get product? What do they get for helping you build your business?
So it's a combination of multiple things, but they get a card, like a gift card to our website. So they can essentially buy whatever products they want from our website with that gift card. And then they also, if they generate sales, they can get a commission. But we also, if they're under 18, we have a very extensive parents involvement. They have to sign over a parental consent form. Like, it's a very big part of everything we do to involve, honestly, the parents as well, and not just the consumers. And if they're over 18, then obviously it's not a problem.
And going back to when you were thinking about the business, you identified the opportunity in the space by noticing there was no real product out there that not only looked good, was made of natural products at an affordable price. It was all like your mom's skincare product that you would find on a shelf in a drugstore. That's the space that you saw. And then how did you use your team to confirm that that was really the opportunity, and describe what came next?
So essentially, when I started exploring the space, I realized there's so much innovation and so much going on in prestige and so much going on at the price point of over $30. But then when you look at mass shelves, when you look at price points of under $20, the shelves and the brands have stayed the same in the last 20 to 30 years. And the brands that they were using are exactly the same brands that I used when I was a teen and that my mom used when she was a teen. So I felt like there's such an opportunity to create something that is, first and foremost, is better for them, that is going to be extremely clinical, that is going to have the best possible ingredients, but is also going to be something that they actually want to use and that they're excited to use. And at the same time, still be affordable and still be accessible and still be something that will drive the results that they're looking for. So it took us about 2.5 years to create the brand, together with dermatologists, together with our community, and together with a team of experts. And we created products that, honestly, I'm very proud to say that are prestige and premium products, that we just priced them at a lower price. So we essentially made a product that will usually cost you $100 at a price point of $50, and made it also fun and exciting and also something that people would want to use. So it was 2.5 years to actually create the brand and the product, and involved a lot of experts and chemists and dermatologists. And I'm proud to say that we also have the best team in the world with very extensive beauty experience.
You made a very critical decision, which I often find is avoided, which is to go for margin dollars and not margin percent. Way too often, certainly in the apparel industry, we get very focused on what the margin target needs to be. And I need to be at this gross margin. As someone once told me, you can't put a percent in the bank, but you can put $1 in the bank. So you took lower margin and focused on margin dollars and margin dollar growth versus just the bragging rights of high margin percent, which may be associated with many other brands that are $100 or $125 offering a product that's addressing the same space that you're in. So it's so commendable that you took that point of view, because many are afraid of that. And I think that the lesson learned there is you need to make sure that you're pricing the product right. And certainly when you're going after the market that you're going after, that younger market, price is so important, along with the branding that you add to it. It's a combination of the two, I think, that makes Bubble work.
Yes. And I think I would say that pricing matters. I think we all look at ourselves and we look at it from a place of being an adult with discretionary spend. And a lot of founders, have made some, money in their life. And because of that, they forget how it is to actually be a younger consumer and how to make most of your money babysitting and work with cash and working as a barista somewhere. And because of that, it's younger consumers, pricing really, really, really matters. And eventually my goal was to create products that are accessible to all, but would want to be used by everyone, and that people would not feel like they're making any kind of compromises when they use it. So the way we priced our products was based on what our consumers told us and our community told us that they want to spend versus what percentage of margin we wanted to make. And that was something that was, a very difficult decision, because everybody in the industry said that we're completely crazy. because the beauty industry has such significant margins and it's so important to be aligned with these percentages. And we made an active decision that we don't care about what people say and we just want to focus on the consumer.
With that approach, and as you were thinking about retailing or selling to the customer, did you launch Bubble D2C online first, or did you actually open up wholesale accounts before you launched online?
So we launched D2C only. So my background was before that in performance marketing and in e-commerce. And I had no retail connection or beauty connection, which is kind of funny to think about because now we're available in 13,000 stores in the US. And we launched it D2C only because I just did not have the connections. I did not know anyone in any of the retailers. And it was really crazy because the first thing we realized after day 2 of the launch was that consumers love what we're doing, but they don't want to shop it online. And they have no interest in paying $5 or $6 shipping and waiting for a week for a product that costs $15 or a product that they just need today. So the first revelation and like the most clear thing we had in the first week of launch was D2C is not what we are and not what we can continue to be. And we were very fortunate to also be approached by most of the large retailers in the country. So we had to find what is the right partnership and what is the right place for us in distribution to really be where we want to be and where is right for our consumers to find us.
And where is your brand found today?
So today you can find brand in Walmart, in Ulta, in CVS, and in Amazon. And in the UK, we are available in Boots. And we just announced a few days ago that we are now available in Australia in 450 Priceline stores.
Amazing. So I want to go back to the margin question, because if you were originally thinking about a D2C approach, you can take lower margins. But when you work with a wholesale approach, that can be really difficult. How can you sustain the margin in the wholesale sale?
So I'm going to say something that is going to be very controversial, but I am a very strong believer over the fact that D2C is not better margins. And I think we're all stuck with the idea of D2C is the best margins because you can control the full funnel and it's actually the best place and it's actually, you can drive the most profitability. When if you look at most D2C only brands, they're not very profitable. And there's a very clear reason to that. And I think at the lower price point, it's even more apparent and it's more clear because our average order value is around $27, $28, which is a very low order value. When you think about it, it's like 1.5 items of Bubble. And when you think of the average consumer who shops at a $28 average order value, you also see that you need to spend $2 for a pick and pack, and you need to spend on shipping, and you need to spend on the shipping materials. And it's a D2C experience, so it needs to be top-notch experience. And you add the stickers, and you add the full thing, and the tissue paper. This whole thing is actually extremely expensive. And then if you add to that also, in order to scale a D2C brand, you need to spend on marketing. And the way to spend on marketing is usually performance marketing, which performance marketing in beauty is extremely expensive. So you actually find yourself with significantly less profit than you would find in a retail account.
Totally agree. Wholesale can be more profitable than D2C, at least online D2C. Store D2C is yet another equation, but wholesale can be extremely profitable. In fact, I think brands today that aren't looking at wholesale distribution are missing an important part of the business. Certainly, it can be more profitable than online for all the reasons you just described. Online is very expensive. It's expensive to operate. It's expensive to amplify. It's expensive to ship, to pick, to pack, all those things. So totally agree. One thing that I'm putting my hand up for now, I want to be the head of your retail stores. Now, I'm not talking about traditional retail, and maybe you already have this going on, but I want to put a Bubble vending machine in every airport. Does anybody have the rights to that business yet? Can I do that?
Not yet. It's actually something very interesting that we're talking about, how do we have physical experiences that consumers are excited about and that they get to feel the brand in a different way? Because obviously the biggest disadvantage of being in wholesale is the fact that you can't control the experience. Eventually, there's a store environment and we are available in 13,000 stores in the US alone. And we cannot control how we pop up on the shelf and we cannot control how it looks like and we cannot control our in stocks on a store level. And that becomes, a very challenging thing when you are a brand that really cares about the experience that you bring to consumers. So, but at the same time, I'm also such a big believer over the fact that consumers are looking for consolidated carts and they're looking to shop for multiple brands in one cart and they want an easy environment. And I think that having, your own dedicated store is a different story, which makes it very challenging when you're eventually a one brand with limited SKUs. So I think it's the constant struggle of how do you control your own experience, but at the same time, surprise and delight consumers without making an environment that doesn't make sense because you only have 20 SKUs and you're one brand.
Yeah, I'm sure the mall kiosk would also serve you well, and you could probably strike a pretty good deal with most mall developers today. The brand is so sticky and hot that it would be pretty exciting, I assume, to many of your customers to see a bubble structure in the middle of their favorite shopping center. But just remember me when you're ready to roll out physical retail, because to me, it's just all about the machines and keeping them in stock and making them fun and adding all the AI that it looks like you're playing with as well to create some theater and atmosphere for the product and brand. Let's talk a little bit more about marketing. It looks to me, from what I can see, you're very focused on user-generated content. You really leverage your community on Instagram, on your site. Where are you spending your marketing dollars?
So I would say we are definitely very different in terms of the fact that where we want to spend our marketing dollars is in physical experiences. So we had a few weeks ago, we actually announced the Tailgate Tour, which I don't know if you've seen, but we essentially went to different colleges and just the Face the Game Day campaign. Before that, we actually had an activation in Morgenstern Ice Cream here in New York, which was a really, really, really incredible activation that we honestly felt really bad because not a lot of people got to actually experience it eventually because we didn't realize that was a 4-hour wait time to actually get to the store because of the lines were so long. It was our first experience in a real retail, in a real experiential moment, and we did not expect the turnout. So we really started thinking of new ways to meet our customers in ways that will excite them, will delight them, that will be fun and will be, a place where they're not necessarily are expecting to see us, but to really do something that is different. And that's where we believe the future is, in grassroots and really meeting your customers in different places and having that one-on-one connection with consumers.
I like the idea of the bubble bus or whatever you were doing to bring it to colleges. I spent some time on the board with Dormify.
Oh, I love Amanda Zuckerman.
Exactly, with Amanda and Lisa Meyer and a few others. Great brand, but looking to also really get into that college campus, the student body, looking at collaborations. They had ambassadors, not too dissimilar to what you're doing, but it's really finding the right group of people to get behind the product and making those impressions across many different college campuses. Do you have anything like that in the college campus arena outside of what you're doing with the game day strategy?
So we have a college campus program, which essentially we have campus reps in different colleges and they activate college ambassadors, and we have a specific exclusive merch to them and a really, really, really unique experience once you become a campus rep and a campus ambassador. And that's something that we're heavily invested in and something that we continue to grow and continue to focus on. And in general, everything related to our community and our brand ambassador program is where we focus these days and where we see our heart and soul and where we want to continue to expand.
If someone wants to be an ambassador, is that information available on your site?
Yes. So they can go to the community page and apply to be a brand ambassador.
Is that where I would apply for my head of retail job too?
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. Just want to make sure. Talk a little bit about collaborations. They seem to continue to be all the buzz. How do you view collaborations as a means to taking Bubble forward?
So I think it's really interesting because obviously we are still, a fairly young brand. We are 4 years old. And I still think that a lot of consumers are still discovering us and are still learning who we are and are still learning of all the different products and what we have to offer. And collaboration is a beautiful way to show different sides of the brand and show how you take the brand to different places and how you stretch it beyond how it exists as a standalone. And we actually just did a collaboration with Disney for Inside Out 2 that has been in the making for over 2 years. which was a collaboration that we were incredibly proud of. Such an exciting moment for us and tied the connection between mental health and the connection between the playfulness and the fun and the growing up and the whole experience of what it is. We did an entire campaign called Face Your Feels about this collaboration because it's all about facing your feelings, and especially as you mature, as you grow up. So that was something that was in the making for a very long time, something that we were incredibly proud of. And we constantly think of new ways of how do we show up in a different way? How do we collaborate with brands and show a different side of us? Or with even creators or celebrities. In the past, we've had collaborations with the cast of Outer Banks, for example, 3 members of Outer Banks. So it's constantly a different way for us to show up in different ways that people don't generally expect.
If you could pick a brand and they had to say yes to collaborate with, what brand would it be?
Oh, wow. That's a very, very, very difficult question. I think that's still something we are debating and exploring in a lot of ways. And we're constantly thinking of where do we want to take it? Do we want to take it more on the fashion side? Do we want to take it more on on the gamification side? Something that our community is constantly talking about is Roblox or The Sims. So there are a lot of different ways that we're thinking of how do we come to life in different ways, essentially.
Shift gears and talk a little bit about raising money. Raising money is never easy, especially right now. It's the most challenging time. But what was your strategy for going out and raising capital to fund this idea, this concept?
So it was not an easy task because I did not know a lot of people in the city. I did not grow up here and I did not have any beauty experience. So I had to knock on a lot of doors and I had to meet a lot of different people. I think I met about 400 investors over this journey. And I got a lot of no's. And I think that in the beginning, that no is very rough and it burns in a really big way. And then I think over time, you get to just deal with it, and just become very resilient and handle it. But we're very fortunate to be in a situation that we did not need to raise in a very long time and that we hope to not need to raise again.
And were there major lead investors or was it mostly individuals that supported Bubble?
So it was mainly individuals and early stage funds. And it was, again, an ongoing process over time to essentially get to meet people and build relationships. And sometimes we met a person and then they only invested a year and a half later. So it was definitely a journey to get there.
And can you share with us how much money you've raised?
That's information that we do not close. But what I would say is that we are very, very, very big believers over the fact that your goal is to create a profitable company and that your goal is to not need to rely on external capital. And that's something that we really kind of practiced what we preached and did not raise a lot of capital as a brand and are aiming to, again, never need to rely on any external capital and continue to focus on building a profitable and sustainable business that can continue to support our employees and everyone else around us.
And with Bubble being a 9-figure business plus, is it profitable today?
Yes, it is profitable.
That's great. Congratulations. What's the exit? Tomorrow the phone rings. Who is it from? Who might it be from? I mean, as a founder, you must be thinking about that every now and then.
I think that, it's a difficult conversation because this is eventually a baby. My daughter, I have an 8-year-old and I have a 20 months old. And we always joke that Bubble is my second child, not my third, because it came after my first, but before the third. So I would say it's a very difficult conversation to even think about. But what I would say is that the one thing that we are now constantly talking about and constantly figuring out is how do you expand globally when you're an independent brand? Because we know that we have a demand and awareness everywhere. And we know that we have, consumers that are really interested in trying the brand. But for us to scale internationally is not an easy task. And because of the unique margin structure, we can't just go to a distributor and just spread it everywhere. So we need to be extremely thoughtful and careful by the way we expand and how we do it. And, every time we expand, we do it very intentionally and very thoughtfully. And we actually just launched in Australia and we just finished our first week in Australia. And we are actually number 3 in the retailer already, which is incredibly exciting. But it just shows to us the level of, awareness and excitement that honestly, for us as an independent brand, is not always super easy to tap into. So we're constantly thinking, how do you scale independently in the best possible way when international is a whole nother task? Because eventually expanding into non-English speaking countries is a much more challenging task than expanding to English speaking ones.
Yeah, I would think Asia would be just a huge opportunity, especially in your category, and being an American brand as well would position you extremely well for rapid growth in Asia.
Yeah. So, but it's not an easy task. In Australia, we built a localized team and we have a head of country. And just to think of how you do it in every country when you are an independent brand is not an easy task. So we constantly think of how do we expand and grow and really be able to be available in as many places as we want while still having the hurdles of eventually still being, an indie brand that has limited resources.
And Shai, outside of the 50,000 community members, ambassadors that you have, how many people are actually working for the company today?
So we have 85 people and we have over 20 open positions. So please apply and
20
apply to
open
join.
positions. Wow. I
Yeah.
mean, people get the same thing. Where, again, should they go on LinkedIn for that, or where do they find those jobs?
On LinkedIn, yes.
Excellent. Okay. How are you leveraging technology to grow the company?
So I would say we definitely leverage obviously a lot of different tools on our D2C. Our D2C is a fairly small size of the business, but it is something that we see as our kind of the best place where you can learn about the brand and get educated. So it's the place where we want actually all consumers to experience. So we leverage a lot of different tools on our D2C. We try to leverage tools on retail. Obviously, we work very closely with our retailers, try to find new and innovative ways to figure out our in stock, to figure out shrink, to figure out, how to get better and how to improve productivity, how to analyze our store space. So there's tons of different ways that we're trying to leverage and trying to do. And of course, we don't control the full funnel in a lot of cases. And we internally as a team leverage AI a lot in different ways, which is something that, we're just starting to experiment with, even with like note takers, which is a whole nother fun way of handling meetings, but constantly trying to figure out what are the new tools and how can we get better at leveraging those new incredible tools that are now available to us.
It looks like you're using a fair amount of AI to create digital imagery.
Actually, no, that's all our community members. We don't use any models. Every shoot we do with our community. And they're all shoots that we've taken. We've actually have not used any AI on our creative at all. We have a phenomenal creative team that they're the ones who are leading all of it.
Being a leader, tell us a little bit about your leadership style.
So I think it's something that I'm still constantly trying to grow with and constantly trying to get better at. I work very, very, very closely with our team and very closely. We have an incredible leadership team, like absolutely incredible. And I'm very fortunate and very lucky to have truly the best team in the industry. So working very closely with them, but also at the same time, not trying to micromanage and trying to build a strategy, but that let them build the tactics. And it's something that is a work in progress constantly because we're all very A-type personalities and are all very perfectionists. But I'm very fortunate to have such a phenomenal and such an incredible team of leaders that are really leading their areas and departments in such unbelievable ways that I just feel like I'm lucky and I'm learning from them on a daily basis.
Rumor has it that you pick excellent advisors, and I'm not insulted that I'm not among them, but need help, I'm here. But what is your criteria for picking advisors?
So I think it's, different ways and in different periods of the company. In the beginning, I was looking for people who really experienced the early stage of, being a founder and taking it to growth stage, which we had, the amazing Alexandra Wilkes-Wilton. We have Dorsella, who has over 20 years of experience in CPG, spending the majority of his career in senior roles in Procter and Gamble, for example, who had really kind of helped us through thinking through growth and how do you look at a brand once you hit a certain market share and how do you look at a brand once you scale. And we have the incredible Andrew Ross, who was truly one of the most amazing leaders in beauty, who really helped us through thinking of how do we scale the brand, who was also the chairman of Deciem, The Ordinary, who really helped us through thinking of how do you scale and how do you scale internationally and how do you expand and how do you deal with out of stocks. So I'm constantly thinking of people who can really help us with our blind spots and with the areas that we're about to experience. And they've been an incredible support and guide us through a lot of different challenges and stages, and also really helped our leadership team with different ways.
What would you consider to be your greatest accomplishment?
The team, without a doubt, the team. I would say it's definitely a tough call between the team and our community. But I can also say that one of the main reasons why our community is so phenomenal is because we have an incredible director of community who's been leading it in unbelievable ways. Our team is just really one of the most phenomenal teams across from retail to creative, brand to community, supply chain, product. We just truly have such a phenomenal team. And I learn from them every day. And I am very proud to be working with them. And honestly, they constantly continuing to surprise me in beautiful ways, from the level of formulation that they're able to put together. For example, we've been working on an oil cleanser for 4.5 years. And when we added a new chemist, she suddenly created the most incredible oil cleanser that is now available in the market called First Class, which felt like the Goldilocks that took us such a long time to be able to create. So just a truly phenomenal team that are doing an incredible job at their areas and their space.
What's been the greatest challenge you've faced building this business?
I think it's a different challenge every week, I would say. And I think it's every stage has its own set of challenges, whether if it's in the beginning, it's, your challenge is raising money. And then in a later stage, your challenge is reaching a certain market share. And then at a different stage is continuing to grow. So it's different areas in different stages. But I would say just learning to adapt with the different stages of the business is something that I'm still working through and has been something that we're learning through from, pre-launch days until today, to constantly figure out how do we adapt with the business and how do we adapt our leadership style? How do we adapt our focus? How do we adapt the way we do things? You need to do things very differently when you are at the scale that we are today versus how we needed to do things 2 years ago. And honestly, it's something that we still struggle with because we suddenly need to become a corporate, which is a very different task for a startup. So I think learning to adapt is something that we're constantly learning through and working through.
You mentioned you had limited experience in the beauty space when you started Bubble. Who's your mentor? Do you have go-to people? Is it a person, people? Who helps you when you need help?
I would definitely say my advisors. Our advisors are just phenomenal. And they have been, again, in different areas. Each and every one of them helped me through different stages. Jyothi Rao, for example, has been such a phenomenal mentor over the years. As I said, Andrew Ross, Dorsella have been really helpful in just navigating through a lot of different sets of challenges and things that we've experienced. And I probably call them way too much, but I think they're used to it at this point.
If you could go back to when you started the company, is there anything that you would do differently with the knowledge you have today?
I would say stress less. Another founder told me, I wish I enjoyed the journey more. And I think it's really hard to enjoy the journey because while you're going through the journey, you don't know how it's going to end and you don't know how it's going to look like. So you can't really enjoy it. But I think I really let emotions get in the way sometimes and really kind of let it really kind of influence me in ways that today I do not experience anymore. And I do not let it influence me at the same levels. And I think it would have been really helpful these days to be able to be more relaxed about things and just navigate through challenges versus to panic over certain challenges.
Shai has been kind enough to offer our listeners a special discount of 15% off on their purchase at hellobubble.com. And that will be good until November 22nd. The discount code is pilot15. All right, we're going to pivot to the last part of the podcast, which is rapid fire. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Favorite Bubble product?
Oh, wow. I don't know how to answer. It's like choosing a favorite child. I can't do that. I love them all. And I can pick 7. Slam dunk, First Class, Super Clear, Fresh Start, Magic Melt. I can continue. Daydream, Water Slide.
Favorite place to travel?
Japan.
Great place to see trends.
Yes.
Favorite book?
Love reading books. I can't say that I was emotionally connected to any book that was like, I could say it's my absolute favorite book. I would say that the book that throughout my childhood was my absolute favorite. And I actually love reading it with my daughter now is Harry Potter.
Who would you most like to meet?
Can be dead as well.
Yes, dead or alive.
My dad. So my dad passed away about a year and a half ago, very, very unexpectedly. And I was with him when he passed, but I didn't get to say proper goodbyes because I was overseas. So I would do anything to meet him again.
If you weren't running Bubble, what would you be doing now?
Running Bubble.
And with that, we'll land this flight of the Retail Pilot. Shai, thanks so much for joining us today. It's been great.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's flight of the Retail Pilot. And please give us a review on your favorite podcast platform.